If it's red, it means it's recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, it's on.
Are you gonna call it meeting order?
Sure,
Defer that to the mayor pro tem.
thanks. I'd like to call to order the Joint Water Advisory Committee meeting of October 17th, 2022. Susie, can you do roll call, please?
Yes. Marty Chambers,
Here.
Mike Burns,
Here.
Dan Zarnecki,
Here.
Jerry Hale,
Here.
Rhonda Benedict,
Here.
and William Thompson.
Here.
I'll look for a motion for approval of the agenda.
Oh, that's right here.
I'll second. It's easier that way.
Yep, I do.
Okay.
Citizen comments. Not up for items not on the agenda.
Well, considering this is the first one in a long due process, wish you guys good luck on doing that committee.
Cliff?
I have nothing. You didn't get his name or address.
Yeah, Jim Salzweedl, 505 North Jefferson.
I wasn't expecting either one of you.
It's your fault, you asked.
That's right.
Item 4, discussion on the water treatment plant. Mike?
Okay, so as we all know, this summer we had to put the water restrictions in place, and we've had meetings with Wood Choi from Eagle, obviously with the issues pertaining to the pump station north of town, and the Northwest Pump Station. So we're working through all those issues. I think we're pretty close to being done with that, right, Dan?
We can get the mechanical folks out, yes.
Okay.
We're waiting on them.
But the real issue, and while once that issue is resolved, it will help pumping. There's still the bigger issue of capacity, and as you know, we did have some days this summer we ran up to almost 1.3 million gallons per day, which the maximum capacity of the plant is 1.5 million, and and so that's where in the summer months we put the restrictions in place, and I can tell you the restrictions worked very effectively in alleviating the strain of the water treatment plant. But that being said, that's probably not a good long-term solution for the issues with the water. I did give you the annual pumpage for the year, and so about 41% of the flow, based off these reports, we're going to the township annually. If you break it down, so it's about 236 million gallons, 236 million gallons. Roughly, we're about 97 million gallons was what was going to the township annually. So it's about, I did the math, it's about 41% for the year. And so we haven't been noticed yet by the state that we're at 80% capacity, and that we're going to have to talk about a plant expansion. But we're getting close, and we felt it was appropriate to bring as part of the agreement. There is a joint water advisory committee that was supposed to meet annually every year and never did. And so, but one of the things it does specifically say is when it is time to start thinking about the plant, the capacity issues at the plant, that is when we do need to meet. And so the issue, and so the city council, we've looked at the agreement, and there's some concerns with the city council with the issues. And if you look at the average gallon amount daily that's pumped in the city is never going to on its own ever need to expand the plant on their own. I think in our peak month, we were seeing, I think, 800,000 gallons staying in the city, where, you know, you were getting, I mean, you were getting about, in some months, some days were about 700,000 gallons were going to the township, especially during the peak months in June. But the city is never going to need to expand the facility on their own. However, obviously with the growth of the township, we recognize that the demand at some point is, without an expansion, we're gonna, at some point, we're not gonna be able to meet your demand. And I think the reservation for the, I know for the city council is, who's going to pay for this? And we've talked about this at the city council level, and the council has reservations about paying for an expansion, for having their ratepayers pay for an expansion that they don't need. And so the city council has, we have discussed this multiple times, and we've reviewed we reviewed our interpretation of the agreement, and the agreement never really spells out that the city has to pay for the expansion, and so
It doesn't really spell out
anything. Correct. And you know, we want to be good neighbors in the sense that, you know, we're willing to help do whatever it is to you know, whether it's, you know, us writing grants on your behalf, which just to be noted, and we talked about that. We did put the notices of intent. Yeah, we did. So we're doing that right now. So we did put notices of intent for both of those. Granted, every conversation I've had with people is that because we're not economically depressed, we don't have, you know, we have high quality water. The chances of us getting a lot of assistance from that, it's probably going to be very minimal.
Well, our engineer thought that you had a better chance of getting something for the sewer because of
Probably.
the flows.
Yeah, the water is probably going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
So the city council is kind of taking the city council is taking the position at this time that they recognize you have needs, and we're willing to help you. We're even willing, if we need to, if you want to part ways from the agreement, the city is willing to, you know, to allow you, us not to be the exclusive provider if that's what you don't want anymore. But even the engineering on this, we had a quote about 6 months ago for engineering. The engineering is about $196,000. We obviously, you know, we don't know what that is now. That's 6 months ago with inflation. I don't know what it's going to be, but the city wants to get out in front of this before it becomes a bigger issue. But the city council's concern at this point in time is that they're really not interested in having the city's ratepayer have to be a part of this expansion. And that's about it. Am I missing anything, Marty?
No, that's pretty much it. We, like Mike said, as a group, we've discussed this multiple times, and it's pretty hard for us to go to our ratepayers and say, hey, we got to put an addition of X amount of millions of dollars to service the township, and oh, by the way, you've got to take the tab up. That's not going to go over very well.
That's a good point, Marty. I think the township board and Lowell Township residents would look at it like, well, yeah, that probably isn't fair, but is it fair for us to foot the whole bill to expand a plant that we have no interest in? It's your asset, and we're making it a bigger asset, and we get nothing out of it for that. So that's another point.
Sure.
Is that fair? You know?
Well, no, I see both sides of the coin. I don't know the answer to that as of yet, because our board needs to, you know, stay up to
Yeah.
speed and come up with a direction that we should be going in, but I don't see our board ever approving our ratepayers paying for plan expansion when we don't need it.
So we gotta find something that's fair for everybody.
Yep.
Right.
And I don't know if you've shared with the council some of our discussions
Yep.
at all?
Yeah, I talked to the mayor, I mean, we do talk.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the mayor was part of our
Right,
discussions.
Oh, yeah, those conversations we've had, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, those get briefed back to the council.
yeah.
I mean, anything I do, they know about, so.
Everything? No, I don't know.
Mike, have you approached the county at all relative to the 127 million they have available for infrastructure? and
We
so
have
forth?
not. And my understanding is that's really not available for us.
Well,
That-
it probably isn't, and I
Yeah.
have seen that they have more requests than they have money.
That's the other thing. And they really, I mean, they were more concerned, if anything pertaining to infrastructure, everything I saw was more towards lead service lines. And that's
Towards what?
lead service lines.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's really,
Yeah.
plan expansion was not, when I looked at those characteristics, it's like I kind of, because trust me, every time I see something, I want to see, I always try to see where our issues can fit in those, and I always see a square peg for a round hole is what I see.
Is this the time where we should talk about an authority, forming an authority?
So the position of the city is that they're not opposed to that. I don't, from what the city council has explained to me, is they're not against an idea of some sort of an authority of some form.
Kind of like the fire authority.
Yeah, but at this point, until the flow or the usage, they haven't really dictated that part of it to me yet. They would still want more representation for the city until the usage is at the level at or beyond the city is what I
Then it
think.
would reverse.
They would probably agree to 50/50.
Or we threw out on the table too that what if we bought in to be equal partners in the plant based on the appraisal?
Well, I have a problem with that appraisal. So when they did the appraisal, they did the plant. They did no value of underground services. So all of our miles of lines,
But that wouldn't be part of the authority.
That is true.
yeah. But it still should be part of what the plant is truly worth, because it's a city-owned plant.
Can't be if we're only talking about the plant itself. We're not talking about, you keep your infrastructure, we keep ours, we buy our services from the authority.
Right.
And we would be equal partners, we would buy into the plant only.
I don't know if our board to start would do an equal. I think it would have to go on a flow base.
Okay, that's fair now. You feel the same way if we eventually control that board, because we have more ability.
Yes.
Well, I think the city, from what I've gathered with the city is that, I don't know if the city would ever agree to having less representation, but equal representation.
Yeah.
I don't, at least that's where I've interpreted from the council.
But is that fair, if we start out that way?
I mean,
I
I get what you're saying, but it's also the city is also very leery of giving up their assets, because there's gonna be people in our community that are gonna be very upset that even us doing this, that are gonna give up our assets.
That's why we brought up the buy-in.
Right.
Part of it.
And that's where I think that, obviously that's something that probably needs more exploration.
And probably that's where the attorneys get involved and the engineers.
But, yeah, and that's why we kind of coming to you now, because we know eventually we're gonna have to deal with this.
Well, like you and I
Yeah,
talked,
yeah.
we're just exploring, and the
Mhm.
next step, we know we're
Right.
gonna have to have.
And that's where,
Right.
that's where, now I think we're at the point now we really need to, we need to figure out if we're gonna move forward or.
And
maybe, the township wants to go in a different direction, and that's, that's fine too. We just want to make sure, we're trying to look at all options.
And is this the time, if we did that, to make it a sewer and water authority do both?
I think we need to do one, and then we'll go tackle this second.
Yeah,
I don't think doing both at the same time is ever gonna pass muster. I think doing one, see how that plays out, and then come back and have a conversation, because we'll already have the legwork set up for the first one, so if it works well, that's something else, but as of right now, I'd have a hard time doing that.
Marty, you're saying you prefer not to do both of them
Right, I
together?
just- right.
We don't want to
Have
intermingle.
one authority.
Yeah, do water first, and then after a timeline of, I have no idea, but we can come back and say, okay,
Well, I think that agreement expires.
2027.
Yeah,
yeah. But there's still time to work that out, but we have to see how this all works out to start.
You're saying you want to do water first?
That's been the direction I've been given.
Yep. Not two together, we'll do water, we'll get that one done
possibly blending the two together later.
later.
Yeah, I don't think there's an opposition to
We don't
that.
want to have two separate authorities.
That would
If we
make no
ever did
sense.
that.
Yeah, that would make no sense. I would agree with that. But I think they want to, because we don't really know what's going to happen out there. We don't know, whether that is even going to happen. So
If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
exactly. And so that's kind of where the city's thought was, well, we know we have to address the water first. Even though we know we have 5 years on the other one, we know that the water issue is probably going to be coming up faster than what the sewer is. So the city council.
Unless
wanted
that
to-
happens out there.
Well, then that changes everything, right? That changes.
Well, that
everything.
would speed the process up dramatically, because that benefits
All of
both
us.
parties, so that's a different thing, but until, you can't look at that, because it's on the table, yes, but it hasn't
Yeah.
come to reality.
We met in Lansing with, the next, I told you.
Yep, yep.
That,
That I had not shared, but
okay, with the next Speaker of the House, I can't think of his name right now.
Matthew Hall, correct?
Yes, and Mary, she's now, when Alberts resigned as chairman of the Budget Committee, she took over. But I think she's term limited too, she'll be gone.
Okay. Yeah, there'd probably be somebody in January.
And somebody new. But we are looking at trying to get money, and that if they have in December, I forget, what do they call it?
Lame duck.
Well, no,
They'll do a budget,
budget amendment.
They'll do a budget amendment, I know what it's
Mike
called.
kinda got it right, it is a lame duck
It
thing.
is lame duck, but they do a budget,
Throw it all out.
they do a budget,
Pork barrel.
yeah,
But we
there's a different word for it, but
Money in that
It's a
December
supplemental.
fund.
it's like a tie bar to it's a tie bar to the appropriations budget. That's how we got the money for the showboat. Was
Yeah.
when they did that at the end of the,
We got
they
it
did
for
it at the end of the term.
bridge.
right, you got it for the bridge, we got, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a possibility.
It is.
Not for the whole amount, but they ask a lot of questions about, well, can you leverage this to get federal money, grants and funding? And we have looked into that
Mhm.
too. So, and if not, we'll still go for it next year too. Dave Hildebrand and we met, Mark Anderson, Dave and I met with Alberts today, this morning. And of course, he'll be in the Senate next year too.
Right.
So those are the possibilities, that who knows whether it'll happen or not. But it could happen and really speed that process up.
Well, it was kinda like that, John Friday, when we met with him, he's on the Congress, but he's on the committee for allocating money for different things too.
Yeah,
So, I did mention.
federal
some-
money.
Yes, but I did mention something to him, and He didn't,
Didn't run away scared?
no, didn't seem to have an issue with it.
And he wasn't turning around
No.
going the other way.
But he seemed to be pretty open to what he can do to help this new district,
Yeah.
because it's a new district for him.
Albert's concerns, he can't quite wrap his arms around what's happening on Kent County Parkland. You know, we've talked about where do we want the future growth of Lowell Township, and having it on that non-farmland property to the west of the light industrial district, closer to the expressway, isn't a bottleneck down here. And his other concern was, what's it gonna do to Lowell, because there's a area like for a hotel, restaurant, stuff like that. But I think we alleviated his concerns a lot on that, because that's always been our concern.
Yeah,
We said, geez, we've got a commercial district too, we don't wanna take away from that.
Right.
And I think, you know, I think you can structure them where they don't need, I mean, they're, you
Well-
know, they're gonna make each other better, but they're not gonna drain, I don't, well, I
Don't see
it
a
drain.
situation like
Yeah.
that.
I look at
No, I don't.
it as our downtown will probably become, if we keep tooling ourselves the way we're currently going, will become a destination even more than we currently are. And I think having the hotels out there brings people
They can stay
here.
close by.
And as a business owner, and I have no issue with it. I think it's a great thing. Anything we can do to bring more people to this area. And I take a look at like Traverse City, right? Their downtown flourishes, and yet they have everything that you want out there, they have out in the hotels and everything, and yet everybody flows in.
Something to remember too with Ionia, because it happened to a lot of communities around that time. That was a period of time when that development came out of there, that downtowns were really dying, and there was not a lot of investment in your downtowns where.
Lowell was going through the same thing.
Yeah, where, you know, if you look at the downtown now, I don't, and if you look at, you know, if you look even statewide, you know, the downtown areas are really, you know, they're really back because they offer a niche that, quite frankly, these big suburban, big box stores and stuff, they don't offer.
Oh,
And so,
go look at downtown Ada, right?
They're trying to
they
create
wanted to
what you
build-
already got.
Yes,
Right,
they want to
exactly.
build what we have, so.
And that commercial area out there, I think it's only like 12 acres. And there's probably 4 of that's wetlands. There's not a lot of room to do stuff there. The planning commission did that on purpose, because they didn't want to see a lot of stuff out there.
mhm.
But you still got room for a relatively good-sized strip mall or,
Yeah, I think more, maybe a couple of restaurants and a hotel.
yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Highway commercial stuff.
That's what and honestly, a lot of that highway commercial, I mean, let's just look at, and I don't wanna get this crazy, but, you know, if you look at Gaines Township right there at Kalamazoo, that type of commercial would never be in a downtown. And,
That's what we're shooting for.
right, and
Mhm.
if you look at the west side of our city, you're never gonna have marijuana. So we have that, you know, that, you know, that's, that in itself. I don't, you know, I'm sure the market will subside a little bit, but, I mean, there's,
The
I don't
potheads
see-
are gonna stay in town.
exactly. And so you're not gonna have, you know, a lot of, I mean, that's our biggest, you know, that's our biggest business out in that area right now. It just is. It's the biggest sector. But, you know, you know, now that Benton's made the investment they made, I don't see any of our, I mean, I'd be very shocked to see our businesses go out there. Maybe one of the auto supply stores might, but I just don't see that.
I don't know why they want to.
Well, exactly, I mean, yeah.
Well, I guarantee
If we
you,
get, there'd be a water plant out there,
They're-
if we get sewer
Yeah.
out there, that's gonna put a lot of pressure on the other 3 corners.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be people there with big checks.
Oh, yeah.
for those people. But two of them, well, one of them Kent County Park System owns,
Right.
Right.
and the other is those people on the east side of Walden Nash. I don't think a big check would, in this generation.
I don't think so either, but I think
Down the
the
road.
kids would consider it higher.
Maybe, down the
Yeah.
road. But Jerry Roth, maybe, he's got 100 acres right there.
Yeah,
That's flat and level, and, you know, we're gonna fight that to the end. I mean, it'll develop someday. No, I hope it's far enough down the road, none of us will see it.
Right.
But you probably can't hold that off forever, but
I mean, I grew
not
up,
in the.
I grew up in Macomb County, and I can just tell you, I know from experience that the areas I grew up when I was a little kid was all farmland. And for the right price, it's no longer farmland. And so, I know, even in Utica and Shelby Township where I grew up, they fought it. Well, at least the township did. And it ended up going that way. Now
A zoo.
It's a zoo. You know, that makes.
I think
yeah.
Alberts has a lot better understanding of what's happening in this whole area now.
Mhm.
He wasn't aware of how the fair and the Kent County Park System is gonna go ahead and do what they're gonna do, no matter what happens around them.
right.
It's their land, you know.
Well, they did that over there by the, up 96 and by the coke plant over there, when they made all those trails in that old area back there by the gypsum plant.
Yep.
You know, no, you can't do that. Oh, okay. What they do, they went and put all that beautiful trail system in, and it's a huge success over there. So I do believe they'll just go do it, no matter what.
And we've been approached, I talked to two different developers, one wanted to do apartments and the other one a housing development right behind Meyer. And I just said, you won't be able to hook up to sewer, we don't have any capacity for you. And the one that wanted to do the housing development said, well, I guess I gotta go out and do well and septic then, and add 2 districts. And I hate to see Lowell Township chopped up into 4-acre parcels in a development. That's why, and probably the only reason that I'm saying maybe we have to allow some high-density residential west of the light industrial area, so that we can preserve that land. And we get it, there's people move in, it's a gravel road, and they get all of a sudden there's a lot more traffic on the gravel road, and then they're complaining about the road and they want to see it paved. Well, let's put more houses in an area.
Right. I don't see the county paving the road unless there's a reason to. So, you know, I don't know if we have much more than that right now. It's just, we know we need to get started somewhere.
We needed to start the conversation.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
so,
And that's what we talked about Friday, the conversations are gonna start. They can go good, they can go bad, but at the end of the day, the conversations have to be made, so.
I don't know if they go bad, we might disagree at
Well,
times,
and
but
that's-
we're working towards a
Right.
solution.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was going bad. We've come a long ways in that respect, Marty.
Yeah, we talked about that too, 12 years ago, it was a much different board out there and climate and
And a bunch of,
Done a bunch
and
of
different in the city.
in the city.
And there was a lot of
Yep.
this.
Both of them were doing.
So we've come a long ways in that respect, I think.
But the water agreement doesn't specify any volumes at all as far as the township's concerned.
no, it's all flow. Yeah,
It
it's
just says,
the rate methodology, you basically pay for your percentage of flow,
yeah,
basically. It's not like the wastewater agreement where you actually have 18% capacity.
right.
The water agreement doesn't dictate that at all. And that, the rate methodology is geared towards that as well.
Well, I look at that agreement and think, well, the people that put that together didn't have a crystal ball. They didn't foresee what was gonna happen to this area.
I just kind of wish though that these meetings would have been more regular through the years. Like it was written in, right?
Did anybody, how often do you read that agreement?
I read the agreement, I probably read the agreement more than anyone. And I remember the first time, I remember maybe the first year or two I came here and I saw Dave Pasquale and I was asking him about the agreement. I'm like, have they ever had this water advisory committee? Have they ever met? He goes, no.
Why would we want to meet?
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, it's like,
Well, now we have a reason.
so now it's like, it's like, no, we're supposed to technically do this at least once a year, but it also, it never happened. So,
Are the usages now, the flow now substantially greater than they were last year or the year before?
they tick up a little bit every year from what I've noticed. I ran this until the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30. I know, I can tell you, July, August, and September, the flows, the flows are down because of the restrictions.
And the restrictions went off September 30th,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean-
Well, that's what we were talking about it last
Right.
week. It's like, okay, that's what had been said, but then we never heard.
Right,
That
and
definitely,
honestly,
yes, they did, or.
we
if
could have
needed
probably,
to-
I mean, we were having a conversation internally in August, like beginning of August, because the numbers, because the restrictions were working.
That's
and-
shocking to me.
And they worked. And, the question was, well, do we lift them? But then the problem is we knew that the second we lift them, we'd be
Yep.
right back to where we
Yeah.
were.
No, I think.
But then, once September hits, usage usually goes down anyway.
Right.
And this September, the usage was I just looked at the reports this morning. I had my water plant superintendent, I have him now just give me, at the end of the month, just give me the report for the month. And I look at it and, we were never, there were most days, I would say once the water restrictions went in place, there were most days where we didn't even get to 1 million gallons. That was not uncommon between, what we distributed to you and what we pumped. And then when obviously when way down, you were seeing in the month of September, you were seeing like total like 700,000 gallons. It was, so half, it was relatively even low for September.
And every year, there's 20 or 30 new homes,
Mhm.
and all those people have to establish their lawn.
Right.
And they use a lot of water. I think that drops after they get their lawn established too.
Right.
It drops after they get that first bill.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But then they do the same thing again next year and then wonder why their bill's high.
Yep.
But yeah, so but we recognize that that's not a good long-term, that's not gonna be a long-term solution. But
But it's good to know that it works.
it worked,
when-
it worked.
When
It
we
worked.
have to.
Did the restriction work for both what our people were
Yes.
drawing and?
I would say it was probably equal,
Okay.
percentage-wise to, if you look at the numbers, I looked at the numbers, it's like, well, both are following it, and they're both following, because if you looked at what it was before the restrictions in place and what the pumpages were after, everyone was following it, pretty well.
We did grant half a dozen
Yeah,
exceptions for people that got caught, they just put their lawn in.
yeah, and that really didn't, that didn't impact.
I think Charlie West was part of that.
Was he?
He was.
There was one guy that called and wanted to get one of those exceptions, and I says, well, when did you put your lawn in? And he says, well, I'm putting it in tomorrow. I said, well, maybe you should take.
You might want to wait till the fall. But no, they worked, they did, and I think everyone, whether it was the city residents or the township residents, I think everyone was pretty good about them. And once they
Cooled off.
once they figured it out, it was fine. So
Well, when should we meet again, and what are we gonna discuss then?
I don't know if you need to go back to your board and talk about what, you know, your next steps. I know we will probably at some point go back and talk about, you know, just at least talk about this meeting. And, you know, take it from there. I mean, we're not, and it's like I said, we're really at the, you know, we're really at the conceptual phase right now as to what you want to do. And if you have ideas or things that you might want the city to consider, I would say bring them to us, and we'll set another meeting and we'll discuss them.
Mike, you're looking at engineering quote of
196,000. That was what it was when we did the budget last year. I don't know what it will be now.
Are there any estimates of what the total cost?
The last time they talked about it before, this was probably maybe a year and a half ago. It was about the $1.5–2 million range for the plant expansion.
5.4.
That much? Oh, I thought that was.
Sure.
It was 5.
Building expansions, piping.
Where did I get
That's doubling the size of the plant.
I like that first number.
I know you did
Let's
too.
go back to that one.
No, but where did I get that? I mean, I got a $1.52 million number from Williams. I don't know where I got it from.
But in all honesty, with the cost of materials and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Even the 1.2 is probably closer to 5 now.
Oh, well, yeah, well, yeah.
Well, we did a feasibility study, the cost of doing all this,
Mhm.
and it went up, that was 2 years ago, and it went up by 40%.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
It's like we were supposed to approve our bond ordinance for Monroe tonight, and USDA told us that you might want to wait on that bond ordinance because prices are much, Joseph doesn't explain it tonight, but they told us today, you might want to wait on that until you go out for bid, so.
Well, we'll probably discuss it some at our board meeting tonight. I think pickleball will be the bigger discussion.
At your board meeting? I'm going to theirs.
Okay. I did well over years.
You're welcome, Marty. Boy, is that a disappointment.
Very much so.
We get, the cement cracked in some places wasn't supposed to, but that cracked that surface that's on there. Water gets in, it migrates, so there's only one court left that the pickleball people call playable, because they got dead spots where it's lifted
It's
because
only
of
like
the
2 years
water.
old, isn't it?
Yeah.
3, I think.
We put the top of the line on that.
Right.
That's what I said, that's what makes me so disgusted. We
We did it right.
talked, yes, and that was our, I mean, specifically, we're not gonna go cheap, we're gonna do it right because we want them to last. We don't
Right.
want this to, you know, ugh.
Yeah, ground hydraulics play a funny part in concrete. They will crack it when and there's other places you'll pour and it never cracks it one bit.
Yeah, and of all the courts that they've installed that surface on, this is the only one that's cracked. So what do? We're looking into, they can come in and strip that surface off from it. And, okay, is the concrete cracked? Is it a patch of crack? Is it, if it isn't done this kind of thing, we can just paint lines on the concrete and they can continue to play while we decide if we'll ever come up with enough money to resurface it.
And you have no recourse, I mean, you probably passed your
No.
warranty period.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but if we pay, the money is 12 grand, almost, just under, to rip the old surface off and paint new lines on it. But if the concrete, we find out isn't playable, then we've wasted the money. The part of it,
Just stripping it.
stripping that stuff off, where if it's just gotta all be taken out, we might better save that money and take an air hammer and break it up and throw it all in a dumpster together.
Right.
There's no way to tell until that surface comes up.
Yeah.
No.
You can't see where it's done this, but,
Have they pinned it or laser lined it to see how it lays?
no.
Because we used to do that in commercial buildings. pour the floors and the metal underneath would move and sag. The floor looked that straight. There were some applications where we had to make sure it was good and level, and they would pin it and laser it, and they would check to find, and if it was in so much range,
Parameters, yeah.
yeah, it needed to be fixed, and if it was, you know. So that was kind of interesting, but that was, Jesus, that was 25 years ago we did that, so.
They had laser back then?
Yeah. I still have my one laser that I can set up in one room and do 3 other rooms. The way the prism's all, it's kind of cool, but it sits in the box, got about that much dust in it.
Well, I'll give you some feedback
Okay.
after tonight.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about what we want to get together.
Yep, but I think it's important that we
Continue to
tune
discuss.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
I
yeah.
don't know what monthly per se, but at
Least
least,
quarterly.
yeah.
Yeah.
What would the construction time be, Dan?
Probably 2 years,
Yeah.
provided they can get all the materials.
Yeah, and in your estimations, when does that have to start?
Right now, I don't think we have a definitive answer on that. I think we're waiting to see when the state comes to us and says, you need to start thinking about it. And I'm at the
That
point-
would hurry things up.
Yeah, and I'm at the point where I'm hoping we don't get that this year.
Hopefully he's got enough other things to.
That's kind of what I'm hoping is hopefully there's other issues right now that he's got to deal with. And being the fact that we've been trying to comply with the other ACOs we've had, we've tried to do those as expeditiously as possible.
But my suggestion would be is we don't bring it up to him.
Oh, absolutely.
We told them
Be
that.
careful what you ask for.
Exactly. We told them, no, we know there's a situation over there on G Drive, where we're gonna get pumps, we're gonna fix it and all that. Sat down with them, told them that, next thing you know, we get an order saying we gotta do it. It's like, well, why do you waste your time telling us that? We already know it. We already had it budgeted. But you still said it to us,
Yeah.
and we still haven't finalized that because we can't get the mechanical folks in to do the work. They said they would, now they're changing their mind. Yeah.
Was that the pump we were waiting for the chip or whatever for?
Yeah, the Northwest Pump Station.
There's-
You got all the parts now, so
We
you
have
get
3
somebody
pumps
to-
and we've got everything ready to go. We got all the electronics and just need to bring them all together. And couldn't do it anyways in the summertime, so now, from now till April to get it done, and we were planning to do it end of October, beginning of November, and they're like, well, wait a minute, we're really busy and we've got other stuff and we don't like the valves we quoted you because there's a wait time, so we gotta go with something cheaper, but we don't wanna lower the price. And
Right.
it's like, wait a minute, guys. So we're in the, just starting. I think it'll be done probably January, February, which is no big deal because there's not that much usage then, so. But we've been keeping the state appraised of where we're at and everything's, we're following what we're supposed to. It just kind of made me mad that we knew this, we told them that this is what we're doing, and he still wrote it up. It's like, wow, I don't tell me anything else. I do
Wherever you
yourself.
go, it's the same thing. Well, I'm about a year out.
Yeah. Yeah. So he can find it himself if he wants to poke around and
That's,
he can do his work, we're not.
we're not gonna do his work for him.
So, unless you guys want, you can tell him, but we're not gonna.
So you're gonna go to your board and we'll have a discussion with ours.
Probably update him. with the
Yep.
council meeting.
Everybody get updated, and then Jerry and Mike get together and we'll do this.
Figure out one way or one
Yeah.
way.
Yep. Yep, that works for me.
Okay.
What kind of timeline are you thinking in terms of more discussion?
I mean, what's today, October, something, I mean, we could probably, I mean, I'm thinking probably beginning of the year. I mean, that gives us, it's 2.5 months. I mean, we're getting close to holidays, so probably no reason to, I don't think we're gonna have anything definitive in the next 2-3 months anyway, so we might as well come back first of the year.
I think,
You good with that?
Unless,
I think Jeff Sluggett's already talked to your attorney.
they talk, yeah.
Yeah. So they know what's going on.
Yeah, they're very aware.
So probably whatever we decided, Jeff told me that it probably wouldn't take us long, him and Jessica, to get something put together.
No. Probably.
You good with that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
Well,
yeah, I mean,
this is time to talk about it.
well, that's, you know, it's nice to say yes, and we'll talk about it again. Well, when is again?
Right.
You know, that's,
No, I think we need, you know, if we're not at least talking every other month or quarter, we should be meeting either every other month, or quarterly, I think, right now, because until we start getting into the, until we get it, a plan, then obviously we might probably need more than that.
Well,
Would it hurt to meet every other month right now, just to stay
I
on
was
top?
thinking about
Okay.
December.
Right, just
Just
to
to
keep
keep
it fresh?
things-
Well, why don't we, yeah,
Rolling.
Okay,
keep a little bit of pressure.
yeah, let's do that.
yeah.
I just didn't know, with holidays, I always get funny about that month of December, so.
Jerry can dress up as Santa Claus, he's already got the beer.
So, today is
The white air too.
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
17th.
Oh.
How about,
White air when I was in high
because
school.
Mondays I know work best for Marty.
Yeah,
How about we reconvene Monday, December 5th at 3 o'clock? Does that work?
Yeah, 5th or 12th?
5th or 12th, whatever one works better for everyone, doesn't matter to me. Twelfth will be 2 months from right now.
Yeah, either.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open both days.
Me too.
Why don't we do it the earlier one, I mean,
Yeah, we'll do it
earlier in the
Yeah.
month, and
Because then it, yeah,
Holiday time.
it gets to the silly season, so.
Yeah, then we can always look at like February 6th to do the one after that.
Yeah.
And then that'll give us a good grasp of how everything's going. We can either push it out or maintain.
See you in an hour, Cliff.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a nap right here. So we're good with that?
Yep.
Bill, you're good with that? Jerry, you're good with that?
Yep. Good, good.
All right. Comments? Anybody? Jerry? No, that's,
I think we're
I'm only a
commenting
citizen today. Well, I got comments, but I'm gonna. When I'm in chambers, I'm not gonna make some comments.
there you go. I expect nothing less, Jim. Well, if we're good, I'll look for a motion then to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Support?
Okay, and we'll adjourn at 3:51. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.